Well, since we're on the topic of Banjo Kazooie and Grant Kirkhope, I think we need to bring up Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie.
I forgot about we were going to talk about
That's the number one on my honorable mentions because you can't label me to 5 top musical soundtrack like video game soundtracks. But I think to those who don't know, Banjo and Kazooie is a game from the Nintendo 64 era where you play as a bear and a bird that lives in his backpack, and you have to go on adventures.
Fight a witch.
You have to fight a witch in both games, same witch. You have to collect magical puzzle pieces called jiggies, and you gotta save either your sister or a bunch of people. Either way, and you learn moves, you gather musical notes, you gather little statues that look like you.
Classic 3D platformer stuff. I would put it up there. I mean, Banjo-Kazooie's been talked about, I think, enough in terms of what it is.
Yeah.
It's a great game. Falters in some places, I guess. I love Tooie more than Kazooie, personally. And I also love the music more in Tooie as well.
So I like both games. I never beat both games. I just would stick the cartridge in the 64 and play on Bubba's old save files because he had 100%
he like 100% everything, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but one thing I wanted to bring up was that in this game, I noticed, going back and listening to the soundtrack over the years, is that most of the tracks have sound effects and you hear stuff in the background. Like, for example, we're going to talk about the main theme when you go into Grunty's lair, the witch. When you go into Grunty's lair, it starts with the music and it goes dun, 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 dun. And then right before it gets to that second beat, you hear and then it goes dun, 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 and then it goes boom, 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 boom. And every now and then you'll hear Grunty's laugh. And that's just the first one. But when you go into the second one where she's no longer in the lair, the music goes dun 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 dun, and it's empty sounding because her laugh is not there. Also, like if you listen to like in Banjo Tooie, like there's the what's it called? The first level you go to, the Mayan Mayhem?
In Banjo Tooie?
Yeah.
Mayan Mayhem, yeah.
And like as soon as it starts, it goes da, 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 and then suddenly you hear her, and then you hear rock, rock, and then like you hear like birds going rah, rah, in the background.
I think the reason for that actually is because
it's very immersive.
It's very immersive, yes, but also I think they had to do that by necessity because yes, there's sound effects and there's only so many sound effects you can include in the game Lex because of the N64's like file size.
Yeah,
like the cartridge is only 65 megabytes. Like, that's as big as it is. So it's amazing that soundtracks this good were able to sneak on there and were able to be there in, compressed or whatever form. They were able to be on there and to make the impact that they did.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So like that's one thing I noticed, and there's even like a track that was not included. There was it was like a bonus track of like a world that didn't make it into Banjo-Kazooie, and it was called Prickly Pear Island.
Ooh.
And do you remember that?
No.
And it's very sounding. There's a lot of wind. The music's very quiet, and it's like you're up in the clouds. It's kind of like when you in the second game when you go to Cloud Cuckoo Land, or when you go to any high place in any of the games, and like the music gets lower, and you just hear the wind. And that's basically what this whole track is. But it sounds like it's from Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like it's from.
Which is the same composer, so yeah.
Yeah, same composer, Grant Kirkhope. And it's just like, it's so pleasant. It's mostly my nostalgia glasses on right now talking about this game. But I don't think I've ever heard anyone who like has heard the music and has said a bad thing about it. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anything.
I've heard people say stuff they didn't like about the game, like the level design or the pacing or the characters or the dialogue or whatever have you. But I don't think I've ever heard people say bad things about the music itself.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember listening to podcasts growing up where people were saying, yeah, I went back and actually played Banjo-Kazooie. Like, it's kind of hard and the swimming mechanics suck. But man, this music's a real bopper and it's not a bad game at all.
Oh, yeah. And like, I think it's really cool. Like when you go to like, I liked Banjo Tooie because when you'd fight the boss themes, they were like remixed versions of the world themes that you were in. Like Mr. Patches was the circus theme in Witchy World. It's very slow. And then when you get to Mr. Patches, it's da da da.
Yeah,
da,
it's like
da,
a
da,
real
da,
sped
da,
up. Yeah, it's really awesome. What are some favorite tracks that you'd recommend for people to go listen to? Or just your favorites in general? What's your favorites?
I like I like, what's it called? What's the second world?
Second world in Banjo Kazooie?
Is it the first one? Yeah. It's the pirate one.
Treasure Trove Cove.
Yeah, Treasure Trove Cove is a good one. Like, it's hard for me, like, the first one.
Gobi's Desert's great.
Gobi's Valley.
Gobi's Valley.
Gobi's Valley is good. I'm trying to think. Click Clock Woods is a
Click Clock Woods, yeah.
So what I like also is that when you go to certain areas in Grunty's lair,
the transition.
It transitions from, like, example, you need to go to what is it? You need to go to Click Clock Woods. And when you go to unlock that world in the area, Grunty's theme is still playing, but it's turned over.
As you get closer to the entrance of the world. Yeah,
it plays a alternate version of Grunty's theme where you still hear the laugh, but it's like it's the sound font of the world you're going into.
More video games, before I get into my mentions, I want to say that more video games need to take place and have a setting of an evil person's lair. Because Banjo-Kazooie, outside of maybe one other, like Dracula or Castlevania, like Dracula's Castle and Castlevania is probably the only thing I can think of, but where the whole games is set in the antagonist's lair. And now you have to figure out how to get to the antagonist. And I think Banjo-Kazooie gives a wonderful feeling of like adventure in that setting.
Yeah, you're in one place, but you can
there's
go
so
all
many,
these other places.
Yeah. And it feels limiting at first, but as you go through the world, you're like, okay, you get into the groove of it. And with Tui, which is my favorite, it goes full open world, and you go into
open world.
Well, maybe not open world, but full open area stuff, and you go into different worlds that way through the entire island you're on. It just feels bigger in so many different ways, but it goes to show how effective the Grunty's lair is and the setting that it's in. And I want more games to take place. Like, can you imagine like? There's some of the educational games we played on PC back in the day on our like old computer that were like you're trying to find this evil scientist girl and you're this like robot guy. You
go through the
haunted like towers or house or whatever. And you're going, it's a point and click adventure, you know? But like, I want that kind of feeling in a new game, and whether it be a 3D platformer or 2D or whatever.
This is way off topic, but like I was thinking of you do the same thing in the Ravenhearst games where you're in that one house, and then the second one, you have to go, you find out there's an underground city under the house. It's really messed up story. But
also like the Myst games, like you're on an island and that's all you have access to. Same thing with like Riven or Myst 3 or The Witness. Like these first person kind of exploration games or puzzle games. And I think puzzle games are very effective in those areas.
If done correctly.
But I want something else, like a shooter in just a mansion, or like a 3D platformer again in just a mansion.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you could also make a game like that on a very low budget too. You just have one area you're revisiting all the time. Excuse me. Like Banjo-Kazooie. But you get to play around with mirrors or worlds, or heck, Epic Mickey kind of goes into that a little bit. So, which I can't wait for the remaster. I keep forgetting it's coming out.
Did it already come out?
No, it comes out September and October, I think. One of those months. But I can't wait to go revisit that because it looks like it's going to be good.
I'm tempted to play the Wii version because I bought my own copy of the Wii version.
I am tempted to go back too. I'm not going to lie. But I kind of just want to see what the remaster is and just wait for it.
Well, one reason that's kind of why I did.
That's one reason why I haven't bought or besides money, but it's one reason I haven't bought Paper Mario Thousand Year Door.
Yeah,
is because I just replayed it last year and I had a wonderful time and I kind of 100%ed it. And
we did it last year?
Yeah, I did it last year. I kind of 100%ed it and I was like, I kind of don't want to play the new one because it's the same game, even though there's new stuff to it, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, Banjo-Tooie.
Banjo-Tooie, just really quick, I'm going to give a rapid fire. Maya Ham Temple, Bottle's House is a really good theme. What is it? Klungo's fight theme. That's a pretty good. I like that theme. That's pretty fun. It's a fun boss fights. They're actually pretty easy compared to the other boss fights in the game. I do not like Pterodactyl Land. You can't make me.
Me
like
neither.
That.
I don't like Witchy World either, or Grunty's Industries.
So I like the music
mostly for boating levels that I'm like, I don't want to be here. Those are the themes I don't want. I will say, what's it called? My mind's drawing a blank. Oh, Jolly Roger's Lagoon.
That's a good one.
Cloud
I don't like
Cuckoo Land as well as Hailfire Peaks. I like both of those themes.
I like Cloud Cuckoo Land.
Also, the Grunty fight at the end is a really great theme. Or Banjo-Tooie specifically.
I like personally.
Wumba's theme and Mumbo's theme and Jimmy Jongo's theme. Those are good too.
Jimmy Jongo?
Jingy Jongbo, the bad Mumbo Jumbo.
Minji Jongo.
Minji Jongo, thank you.
Yeah, his theme is really, it's the bop.
Jolly Roger's Lagoon and Cloud Cuckoo Land are probably my favorites.
Yeah, I was thinking, I forgot about
I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting, but.
The Jinjo Village.
Oh, that's the one.
Oh my gosh.
That's the best track.
That is one of the best places to start out when you boot that game up. It is so nice.
So happy.
It's so happy.
And you're like, oh, they're so cute. And you got to collect them throughout the game. And they come back to the village and you see how many you collected. And
then you got the stupid Jinjos that are actually robots that will attack you if you get close.
Yeah, it's like, So.
They're like, and then they're all like, hi. And then they're like, rah.
And they're like robots and they're like, rah.
Trying not to scream at like 7 a.m. when I woke up to play the game.
I think the reason why I didn't bring up Banjo or some of the other ones I'm going to dive into, Lexi, in our prior list is probably because of nostalgia. And I feel like nostalgia has a huge
factor
for sure. And that's why I kind of wanted to focus on more recent titles.
If you want to focus on a recent title, I can do that.
Well, we already did with Belle and Wonderworld.
Oh, I got better. I got more recent titles.
Okay, well, that's good. So, anything else you have to say on Banjo-Kazooie before we move on? Classic.
It is classic.
Better than Donkey Kong 64 stuff.
For once, I put it on when I was hanging out with the kids and we were playing Minecraft. And I was like, let's just put on Banjo-Kazooie music. And so I just would put it on. And then Sam would I'm like, Sam, can you go to this track? And he's like, which one is that? And then like we would put it on and I'm like, I bet you this track is Hailfire Peaks. And he looks at it and he goes, you're right. And stuff. And this is a side note for me personally, but I like knowing about video game soundtracks. Like I like knowing what it's from. I don't know if you remember this, Jake, but when Insane in the Rain did his little orchestra of video game medleys.
Yeah.
I was listening to it in your room. And with every track, I wasn't looking at the screen. I guessed every track. And then like suddenly it ended with Dr. Willie's Castle from Mega Man 2. And the only reason I know that is because someone I follow covered it on violin. And so when I said that, you were all like, how do you know all this stuff? And I'm like, I get around. But I don't know why. It's just, I love knowing where each game, like each soundtrack, like what game it's from. And like, I don't know. I just pride myself in just like knowing that and like having that knowledge of like either who composed it or what game is in what section of what game, what track it is. So,
well, here's something. Here's a game like.